Introducing you to the man behind the film. SkyWatch TV for Thursday, February 11th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. Yesterday, Sharon and I talked with Joe Artis, who I introduced as the director of the nominated film Inhuman, The Next and Final Phase of Man is Here, nominated for a Telly Award in the 37th Annual Tellys. That was not exactly correct. Joe was director of photography, but there is another man responsible for actually putting all the pieces together. Wonderfully shot, but the man who connected the images and put it all together into a finished package is our guest. He is the man behind the Face Like the Sun channel on YouTube, co-host of the Canary Cry Radio podcast, an excellent podcast. If you've not yet listened to it, you really should. And the director of Inhuman, the movie, our friend Gonz Shimura. Gonz, welcome to SkyWatch TV.
Hey, Derek, how's it going?
Well, it's going really well. I mean, we're frankly kind of laughing a bit about Inhuman, the film, being nominated in the Telly Awards in the non-broadcast category, because some of the films in that category are produced by people that are high-budget operations. I mean, 21st Century Fox, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
and
no, it's amazing.
Now, yesterday we talked, Sharon and Joe Artis and I talked about the film, and of course, Joe handled most of the photography, but you're the guy that actually took all those pieces that have been collected over 5 years and put them together. How long a process was it, and what sort of judgment do you have to make in deciding what to use and how to balance out information with the aesthetics, making a film that looks professional?
Right. Well, I think it was a huge help. It was a team effort because you guys at Skywatch handed me a lot of stuff that was already put together. My job was to bring it all and make it cohesive, make it work. And but if it wasn't for you guys, the process would have been a lot harder. So my job, was pretty easy in that sense. But yeah, it is pretty amazing that we were nominated because as I sit here in my closet studio, which I don't know if you can tell, this is the door to the closet, and it's a very small little space. To think that a whole documentary was made in this little space and it's now being nominated, it's quite remarkable.
Yeah. Well, the film's final output, the film itself is aesthetically pleasing, and it's filled with information. I mean, it's a 3-hour film, which by most standards is a pretty long movie to watch, but there's so much information out there. In the film, rather, it was difficult to imagine taking any pieces out of it. This is a topic that I know that you're familiar with. You are the co-host with Basil of Canary Cry Radio. You also produce a lot of content for your own Face Like the Sun channel on YouTube. And
yes.
Transhumanism is a topic that you have discussed more than once. What is it about the transhumanism movement that you feel is most important, and what about it requires a wake-up call to the church?
Oh, man, the whole topic itself is just so important, just overall. And I think when I started looking at it, thanks to guys like Tom Horn and you guys at VFTB and PID Radio, it immediately struck a nerve with me because just reflecting on my own life being born in the early 80s, we went through the transition of changing technologies rapidly. Computers were part of our classrooms as we were growing up, playing, Oregon Trail and things like that. So I saw the technology infiltrating society very early on, and when you guys started talking about it in the context of biblical prophecy and how the church responds to it and everything else, it definitely hit a nerve, and it got me really interested in looking at it, keeping my finger on the pulse. And now, when you guys first started talking about it, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was there, but it wasn't in your face. Now, I mean, it is unbelievable. You have the recent Super Bowl commercial with what was it? The 3-piece animal baby
the monkey baby monkey.
There you go.
Whatever.
Yeah. I didn't watch it, so I don't really know all the details, but that kind of stuff clearly promoting some sort of hybridization, genetic manipulation, things like that. So it's just everywhere now, and I almost feel like the church is already so far behind on various topics in terms of discussing it. This is another one of those things that I think we need to start talking about, because it's not just a cultural change. This is now infiltrating into literally our physical bodies, and that is the sort of barrier or border, I think, that is different from just a social change or a environmental change. Now it's literally our genetics. So how does that change our perspective as a church, or how do we respond to that? And that sort of thing is very important for me. So I don't know, nothing specific really, just the whole movement itself and how it's so prevalent in society now. And you look at the entrepreneur world and the business world, and they're really interested in, keeping data and enhancing yourself, improving yourself. And those things are good in one sense, but I think as they become more and more infiltrated into our bodies and are just everywhere now, how do we respond to that? So the whole thing, I think, is an important topic that we have to continue to discuss and get out there.
Well, I'll ask you a question that I was asked when I talked about this topic with a graduate level course at Eastern Illinois University just about a year ago, a course in world technology. And these were students from all over the world, some Americans, but also people from just about every continent on the planet, people of all different ethnic and religious backgrounds, everything from Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, atheists, and a couple of Christians. And one of the young women in the course, the class, who professed to be a Christian, was puzzled as to why the transhumanist movement, this idea that we can somehow live forever through technology or through the merger of our biology with technology, why the church should even be concerned about that in a day and age where we're seeing Christians across the Middle East being slaughtered by the Islamic State. We're seeing the disparity between the haves and the have-nots here in our own country. We're seeing what appears to be some real injustice on a number of social issues, which as a young person, I think she's probably more sensitive to or attuned to than somebody her father's age, which would be me. So her question was very simple. Why does this matter? Why does the transhumanist matter? Why should the church even care?
And that's a great question. And I think, as myself being early 30s, so I can kind of tip the toe with the younger generation.
I'm old enough to be your dad too. So,
so I can understand, the social issues, the hot button topics that are in front of them. Mm-hmm. Does seem more important, but at the same time, what can we do about those things at a real tangible level? And that's a difficult question too. That I think as we discuss it, stuff keeps happening, and so it's the thing that's different now. Also, is the amount of information and the stuff that gets put in front of us with social media. I mean, things are just constantly bombarding. Stories are changing, updating every day, and it makes it difficult to see a bigger picture, I think, for a generation that's so used to just getting stuff daily. They might have an overview that's presupposed, but nothing that's going to shape, okay, here's where stuff's headed. Whereas I'm sure, as you get older, you can see the difference between now and 30, 40 years ago, and then compare that to the rest of.
Well, I think that's it. I think that's it right there. I think the older you get, the easier it is for you to take a longer view. Right. I know that's the case for me compared to when I was in my 30s or 20s. Back then, I wasn't thinking much past the weekend. And now, as a father and old enough to be a grandfather, I can see with a little bit more clarity. And if my dad were here still with us, he'd laugh because I'm not ashamed to tell people that my dad, who passed away 10 years ago, keeps getting smarter with every passing year. As I realized that he was right about stuff he was trying to drill into my head, 20 years ago.
Right. And it's important because we look at our kids, some of us starting to have kids and everything else. What are they going to face, in 20, 30 years, especially if the plan that they are telling us comes to fruition? What kinds of things are they going to face? And it's interesting that you brought up class warfare. So the difference is that you talked about, they're looking at what right in front of us, the haves and have-nots, the disparity changing. Well, that in itself could spark, new levels of civil unrest. And, we documented Dr. Hugo de Garis in the documentary that predicts this war, this full-out war that can be detrimental in the billions of deaths that he's predicting.
Giga-death, he calls it.
Giga-death, yeah. So that sort of implication is, it's astronomical. It's if it's going to affect 1 billion people on the planet, I would say we probably should be looking at it, even though it may seem like it's a 20, 30 year thing in front of us. Lord willing, we have that much time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, why should we care? Because all indications are that something major is going to happen. It's already happening. I've been looking at some of the news coming out about documenting or establishing a fourth wave of the industrial revolution that's going to create infrastructure that, easy space travel, faster transportation. They're building a prototype of the Hyperloop, which is an Elon Musk project out here in California. So, in front of where I am, in front of my eyes, are things that are being developed, that are going to change society profoundly. And, all the elements, the genetics, the technology, the computers, quantum computers, all those things in tandem is changing our world very rapidly. So, it just becomes, how do we surf that wave of change as a church?
Yeah. And a lot of people would say, well, we've been through these revolutions before. We've gone from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age. We've gone through the Industrial Revolution to the Technological Revolution. But for me, it comes down, when you boil it down to its bare essence, that there are two big takeaways, two main points that should really concern the church. First of all, is this idea that a new generation coming up is being taught that salvation will be found on a silicon chip or in a test tube, that somehow we will live forever, that mankind's eternal home will be discovered through our own efforts, through technology, rather than through the words of a man who may or may not have lived 2,000 years ago in a book that's sitting on a counter that my parents have never read. First of all, they're putting their faith for salvation in technology. Secondly, is that even when you set, and you alluded to this as well, with the potential for social disruption, that when you set aside the theological implications of the transhumanist movement, which in my view is a 21st century science fiction religion, when you set that aside and you look at who will be able to afford these technologies to upgrade themselves and their children, what parent with the means to do so wouldn't want to guarantee that not only would their children be free from disease, from genetically inherited disease, or a genetic predisposition to certain conditions, high cholesterol, and so forth, but for a few dollars more could guarantee blue eyes and blonde hair and excellent eye-hand coordination. So, and stand 7'2", so he could, play basketball or be an NFL linebacker or be a world-class neurosurgeon. Who will be able to afford that? It is the people who already are at the very top of the pyramid as far as income status goes and access to medical care and the best education. The people at the bottom of the social pyramid who are already denied the access to nutrition that the wealthy have.
Right.
We'll find after several generations of children being upgraded through technology, through genetic manipulation, gene editing, we'll find that there's even a wider gap and that they will never, ever be able to climb the rungs of social status because the people at the top are genetically enhanced. They're smarter, they're healthier, they live longer, they're better looking.
Yeah, Gattaca in real life.
Yes, exactly right. I think that potential there, if you even setting aside it is eugenics. It is eugenics on steroids.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you bring up a couple different points that are so important, and the first one being, Richard Dolan, who's a ufologist, has this phrase called breakaway civilization. And he's looked at, the history ever since World War II of astronomical amounts of wealth that came through the Nazi, plundering and everything on not just the Western side, but the Eastern side as well with Japan. And so all that's fascinating. And then, this change that's happening, if you listen to Douglas MacArthur's speech, I believe it was in the 60s. I could be wrong about that, but it was later after World War II, obviously 15 or so years later. He's talking about weather control, gene control, food control with different, everything he talks about is very science fiction. And the question is there already the top of the pyramid that has access to all that? Have they already done the change? And are they basically preparing the world to sort of trickle that down into the masses to, infect the rest of us, in essence? Yeah. And in that sense, I do think that, one thing that's been really kind of on my heart recently is this idea that the church in response is so vital, because I feel like as the bottom of the rung, if you want to call it that, the masses sees this come in, and how we as a church might be able to operate not just not just, in the basic understanding of the theology and everything else, but literally moving in the Holy Spirit and actually doing healings. I mean, these things that I struggle with, does the church heal people to the fullest degree? Do they? I mean, I think so. So the kinds of miracles that we might see could also be ramped up as God's answer to the transhumanist movement as we enter this end time scenario. So, I think we have to be excited about that as well, and that there might be a really strong revival in the church. But I don't know, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but that's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Well, I sure hope you're right. I tend to be a little more pessimistic there, but maybe that's just after 20 years of sales and hearing no, 80 to 80% of the time. One final question, Gonz.
Sure.
And again, we really appreciate the work that you've done on the film. Inhuman, the next and final phase of man is here. The nomination, well-deserved as far as the aesthetics, in my view, the work that you put into the film. But just so people are aware of your other work, people on SkyWatch TV who may not be familiar with Gonz Shimura, where do they find Canary Cry Radio? Where do they find the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel to follow your work?
Well, canarycryradio.com is where you can get the podcast. We recently had a website hack, so that wasn't fun. But you can go there. You can go to iTunes or Stitcher. Any podcatcher will probably have the feed. I think. Hopefully, I think we got all that squared away right now. And then YouTube, you can go to Face Like the Sun, FACELIKETHESUN, and that's in reference to Matthew 17:2 and a couple places in Revelation. Yeah, I try to post. I posted daily last year videos, which I'm sure Derek, is a challenge.
That's a lot of work.
Task. This year, I'm approaching it a little differently, not doing as many daily videos. I'm looking into different series and stuff like that and trying to keep it going. But it's been a really huge blessing, and I love it. So if you guys want to join me in investigating whatever's going on, I mean, I cover everything from stuff that gets me into all kinds of trouble to, the Super Bowl, which I didn't cover, but those types of things, the mainstream stuff. So Face Like the Sun on YouTube.
All right. Gonz Shimura, the director of Inhuman, the next and final phase of man is here. Gonz, good to talk with you again. Good to see you again. And Josh Peck said to say hi, and, well, I'll leave the rest of that message.
Oh, Josh Peck. Oh.
Voting for the People's Choice Award at the 37th Annual Telly Awards continues. Again, there's still some lack of clarity as to how long the voting continues. So we recommend getting to the website, skywatchtv.com, our website, and following the link to the page at the Telly Awards website to rate Inhuman, the next and final phase of man is here, right away. Because one email indicates the voting will last for 4 weeks. Another indicates that the voting may close this weekend. So do it now so that there's no chance that your voice will not be heard. And I'll say again, we're asking for your help not because we want an award just to make ourselves feel good, but because by being able to present Inhuman as an award-winning film, it will carry credibility with those who aren't already on board, who already understand the nature of the transhumanist movement and how it will impact all of humanity. And we thank you for your help. And of course, your financial help is always needed. During the month of February, your financial gift to us of any amount will get you this gift from SkyWatch TV. It is a resin cross emblazoned with the central message of the gospel. It looks like stone, stands 8 inches tall, and proclaims to the world that God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, John 3:16. Again, our gift to you for your gift of any amount while supplies last during the month of February. And for instructions on how to give, log on to skywatchtv.com. We've also got some exciting news about some new outlets where you'll be able to watch SkyWatch TV in the very near future. We're adding more times to the Christian television network programming. We'll be broadcast on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday nights. We're also adding 2 new networks. The Cornerstone Network, which is based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, broadcasts over the air to television stations across the country, actually. And we're also adding the Victory Television Network based out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Ironically, Jim Grant, the manager there, was the general manager of the other radio station that my employer was competing with back 30 years ago when I was a top 40 radio disc jockey. Thankfully, the Lord was patient with us, and now we're on better paths. But it is a pleasure to be, and an honor to be affiliated with the Cornerstone Network, with the Victory Television Network, which covers most of Arkansas and the Memphis metropolitan area, and of course, adding more time now on the Christian Television Network, and your support has helped make that possible. For more information about dates, times, and places now where you can see SkyWatch TV, of course, in addition to our SkyWatch TV channel on Roku, log on to skywatchtv.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.